Hello everybody and welcome to another Smile tutorial. This is going to be the basic overview of the FX1 box. There's a lot of different features. You will be using this thing a lot. If you're making a hack of Super Metroid, there's a whole bunch of different things. This is going to be one of the boxes you're definitely going to want to become very familiar with. So let's go ahead and get started. So to reach the FX1 box, is just in Edit and then FX1. Pretty straightforward. It will bring up the box. And here is your main workstation for the FX1. Now there's a whole bunch of different effects in here. Maybe not a whole bunch, but there's quite a few. You'll often see none as an option in a lot of the original rooms. But you can add these to whatever rooms you want. There's no repointing involved. You just simply open up this box and select what you want. So we've got a few things. We've got the lava, acid, and water. Those are three liquids. Those were covered in a previous tutorial. And because they sort of needed their own tutorial because they're slightly different. There's different properties and things you can do with those. The rest of this is pretty much very similar. So the rest of this is all getting bunched together. But there's a lot of different things in here. A lot of different uses. There are different ways to use these things, obviously, but that's your main thing right there. It's your drop-down menu, and then you can choose whatever you want. You have this layer 3 type editor, which I pick fog, and then open that up. This opens up the fog. This is what's actually scrolling through the screen, and it just repeats forever. So it scrolls down like that normally from top right down to bottom left, and you'll just see the same patterns over and over. That's because it's just this sheet pasted over and over. It's loading the sheet here, it loads it here, wherever. You can do that with fog, I believe water as well. Pull that over here. But that's the water tile map. Again, you see the water here. And again, just a bunch of repeating patterns, obviously slightly different towards the top. So there's different ones you can do that with. These 4 boxes we're not covering in this. That was covered in the liquids tutorial because this only applies to them. So we don't even need to worry about those for this tutorial. If you do want to know about these, check the very end of the liquids tutorial. That's when I cover what these do and how to use them. The palette blend box. This is something you can also play around with. This will affect pretty much everything. Stick that back on Firefly. Room was. So this will affect pretty much everything. It'll put palette blends over the whole room or over the whole area that the FX affects. Lava, if you'll see rooms with lava, this will always be O2. That's the orange palette blend. It will make water and lava orange. You can do whatever you want with this. OO is basically nothing. There's a whole lot of really weird ones. I haven't gone through them all, but when I was playing around with it, I did notice there seemed to be like a lot of black and white, or like really dark blue and white palette blends. It's just pointing to different locations in the ROM, and it's pulling colors from there, and so you can find some interesting things with that. You can make some really weird combinations. These boxes here. These are sometimes specific to areas. The spikes will be in every area. These will, obviously with animated tile, these will tell these CRE spikes. Let me put some in here. If you have these in your room, and these, they will remain static in your room. In order for them to do their little spiky whatchamacallit thing, you actually need to tick these boxes. And you can have one going and the other one can be static. If you want a fake wall of spikes, you can kind of have them static while you have a floor of spikes that are animated, kind of fake people out, or the other way if you wanted. but that's how you get the spikes to animate. This is a Brinstar only option here. The mouth, that is the Samus Eater plant that will make that thing animate, which is not in this tile set. It's in Red Brinstar. There's your Samus Eaters, and here you see the different animations for these plants in the tile set. So that's what that box will do, is it'll tell those to animate. So actually, if we open this box up in here, you see this one is ticked off. So that's what that does. And again, you might see different things depending on which submap you're in. Go ahead and check that out. So here we've got a couple of different things, ocean and lava. Again, these are all animation things. I don't recall actually ever seeing this lava thing used. The ocean is definitely used in a couple of rooms at least. This one, for instance, it makes these tiles animate slightly. Pull that over. You can see the ocean is ticked off. Again, that'll make these little tiles animate slightly. So this first box is basically just telling things. We're going to have the animation run on these tiles in Meridia. Here we've got quicksand ceiling, quicksand falling. Again, some more animation stuff. So you can try these with different tile sets and different submaps and see what tiles are affected by it. You might come across some very interesting things. But basically, this first scroll bar on the very left is going to be animations of various things. Second one, we've got Palette FX. Now, Meridia has this waterfall illusion, and it's got some quicksand illusions as well. The waterfall illusion, you can see in this room right here, it's got this thing going on back here. And this is sort of an animation as well. It's actually making this appear to be a waterfall. Let me open that up. So you can kind of see it kind of looks like liquid or whatever melting, ice is melting or whatever that's supposed to be up top there. And it's kind of just pouring down and straight to the water, and then it stops. So they set it up to make it look like it's just water pouring into here. Because if they had the tiles further beneath, you would actually see the animation running down into the water. So by setting the water height properly and those tiles at the right point, it just kind of looks like liquid's pouring down. Water's pouring down the wall into the water here. So that's what it's used for in the original. So here in Norfair, you see here you've only got spikes. And in Norfair, we've got quite a bit of glows and a heat bit. The heat bit is obviously, if you don't have area of gravity on, that's when Samus will take damage whenever this is ticked off in a room. We've got 4 different types of glows in Norfair. Norfair does have quite a few glows. So that's basically Norfair. If you wanted to have some more rooms with heat bit, or 2 different submaps, if you wanted like ice and a hot area, you wanted both to have heat bits, you could simply go to terrain, and that has a heat bit. So if you wanted 2 different submaps for ice and a hot area, or toxic air, and I don't even know what else. If you wanted 2 different submaps for those, you don't have to do anything special. We've got 2 different submaps with the heat bits, so you could do stuff with that. As you can see, there's a whole lot of glows in terrain as well. So again, stuff to play around with. Criteria also has a lot of glows in it, as you can see. In fact, this one has the most glows. So it's got quite a lot of things in it as well. Brinstar has some glows, not as much, but there are some options. And this one, so he's got a few here. He's got this spore spawn thing ticked. I'm not actually sure what exactly that does. I really don't know what this box does. So let's maybe play around with that, figure it out. I don't know. So if we go into the next box, also the wreck ship has that as well. But if we go over here into C, we've got some things here which affect liquid. So again, I covered this in the last video, but I didn't exactly cover all these line by line. Basically, if you have liquid in a room, this will make it flow left. It'll give it some movement. Basically, if you have, let me find a room with some water in it. So go to the interior lake. So if we go in here, see how the water is moving left? It's not just stale sitting still. That's because this box is ticked off, the flow left box. So it's giving it some movement without actually making the water go up and down. It's the same height. So if we take that off and then go back in here, now you can see it's just kind of a sitting puddle basically. So the flow left, you can use that with liquids to make some movement, make it maybe a little more visually interesting. Background warp cascade heat. This works with lava and acid. If those are in the room, your layer 2 will go wibbly wobbly because it's in a heated room. So if you're in Norfair, for instance, and we enter this room, you can see the background in here is all going, got all that movement to it. That's because that box is checked off. The BG warp line shift. This does something similar to the warp cascade heat, but it also has another effect. You can see the wavy part of the background tiles. It does that. It's a slightly different wave. Kind of a slightly different effect. This one's more horizontal, whereas the cascade heat was a bit more of a vertical wave. So that's one difference. The other difference is it allows for free movement in liquid. Basically, gravity does not apply to that liquid anymore. So again, these boxes, not entirely sure what they are. The tide, large and small, those are fairly self-explanatory. A small tide will make your liquid just go up and down slightly. Large tide will make it go up and down a little more. And then on the last one, this is something you will want to play around with, figure out what you like a lot. These are the A and B bits. Basically, these are both drop-down menus, and you've got all these different options in them. There are obviously some other things, but there's a whole lot of things you can go through. And here you can also kind of do a reverse, where it inverts the colors with these two options. I covered this in the liquids tutorial as well. But these basically invert your colors, so the orange would become a blue. The orange from Palette Blend 02 would become a blue. So yeah, those will do that. You can do some transparencies that'll be brighter. If you play around, you can find some of those. You've got slightly darkness, glowing visors. There's a whole bunch of really interesting things you can do with that. So that's something to keep in mind. I highly recommend just playing around with these. You'll spend a lot of time doing it, but when you find something you like a lot, it'll be worth it. And make sure to write down, what bits are set to what when you find something you want, because if you find something and then go to something else and you forget, you might spend a while trying to find something, because there'll be a combination between your palette blend, your A and B bits, what FX1 you've got going on in the room. So I do recommend keeping a notepad or something just to document different things you liked and different combinations you liked. So now that we've gone over most of that, let's actually go and take a look at the different options. Now we've already covered the 3 liquids, and obviously the first one is just no FX1 in the room at all. Now this one is used a lot in Brinstar, obviously, the spores. And this one is also affected by the palette blends. But this can go in the rooms. Now you can see we've got these spores going on. So we've got those dropping down from the ceiling. Again, you can do whatever you want with those. That is one of the options. And again, this is affected by palette blends, not affected by these 4 boxes. You can do rain. The rain, basically these, let me open this back up. But basically the spores, rain, and fog, they're kind of like the 3 liquids. I would group these 3 together as very similar. They're just kind of things that are there. The fog is probably the most intense. And spores are kind of tame. The rain is kind of just like smaller, faster spores. Might be cover a bit more of the screen. So, but that's another option you can do is rain. I kind of like using the rain a lot. Can get some nice different effects. You can kind of make it like a blizzard. The rain also has this layer 3 editor here. I'm not sure why this top row is all 1s. I don't know why that's there. It might be there for a reason. Don't know. But here's the rain tiles. If you wanted to mess with those or do whatever, they're in there. You could make it rain morph balls. I mean, you could even put subliminal messages in here. And you may, I am going to check, but you may even be able to mess with the spore tile map as well. So yeah, now we've got messages flying around too. So yeah, there's all kinds of different things you can do. So that's rain, fog. So we will see. Fog covers the most. You can do the most with fog and the palette blends. So let's try that CD palette again. See what that does. So now you can see how that changes a lot of everything. Some of these palette blends will kind of invert it to where the clouds actually seem the clearest, and then the empty space seems to be the more foggy part. The next one is the scrolling sky. This one causes your background to scroll, which is kind of obvious. This is used in the landing site, I believe in 4 rooms total. Not many people use this because of the different effects it can have with certain backgrounds. I mean, you can kind of see where tiles are chopped off. Different heights go different speeds, which if I can... Let me open this door. But you can kind of see those couple of tiles where that door cap was. Those are going faster than the tiles beneath it. On the very bottom row, you can kind of just see one tile there is going faster. So it's different speeds, and that's why people don't use it because building a tile set or building a background where that looks alright, it's kind of difficult. It takes a little more time to make sure it's right. I really do think it creates a neat effect with a lot of tile sets like with this. I don't mind this at all, but again, it doesn't quite look the best either because of some of those cutoffs. But that is also something new. That's what Scrolling Sky does. However, be careful. And I just found this out recently, but be careful using it in tall vertical rooms. It does some very interesting and weird things with this. So yeah, obviously this background was not made for it at all. But that's not the weird part. You see, it just sort of stops scrolling at a certain point. It's not really designed for vertical rooms, or very tall vertical rooms. And then when you get here, you can see the background's all... It's just really glitched up and sort of crazy. Then you get here, everything's fine, still no scrolling. But as you scroll down, you'll see... You see the weird thing in it. It's really not designed for it. Anything above, I think, like 5 screens, maybe 6 screens. So that is something to keep in mind with this. But you could get some interesting effects out of certain rooms with that. In fact, while we're here, let's go into this room. This is one of the rooms that uses the Firefly FX, which is another option. Also the one right after the scrolling sky. The Firefly FX, you'll be aware that this creates this effect here, this lighting effect. And when destroying these particular enemies, it changes the lighting in the room. So that is what the Firefly FX does. This one requires a bit more work to get right. This one requires a layer 2 background. It only affects tiles that are in the background. If I disable layer 1 by pressing F1, that is all that goes away. Everything else is layer 2. So if I enable layer 1 and then disable layer 2, you'll see the entire room is built in layer 2. But this needing a layer 2 in order to work, you obviously have to build your room in layer 2. Just to showcase exactly what's going on with this, you can see the door that was in layer 1, that is not flashing. Well, the rest of this room is built in layer 2, so, or at least the tiles we can see. So now this is all dim. Door is still unaffected, it's perfectly lit up. So you can make it so that by destroying enemies, pretty much everything goes dark, but maybe you want like a platform here to stay light. You'd put that in layer 1 and then be good. So if I were to just grab this, put it there. Now when I go in here, same as this head stuck on the ceiling, you can see that platform no longer affected by Firefly. It's also no longer solid because I turned it to air accidentally, but it's okay. But now we have a visible platform. So that's how the Firefly FX works. Everything in layer 2 will be affected by it. You don't need the bugs to make it work. It just won't get dimmer without them being destroyed. And it's not tied to just any enemy, it's tied to these enemies. So you can have this glowing effect, which is a neat effect, and just have it in certain rooms. And you don't need to worry about putting these guys in here to make it work. Only if you want it to actually get dimmer by those being destroyed. So that is the Firefly FX. The 4 statues, Series Elevator, Series Ridley, these I have no experience with. The 4 statues I am going to assume is with the statue room, and it has something to do with the animations on the statues. That is my educated guess. And then these have something to do with mode 7, I'm assuming. Haze. This has some interesting properties. Go in here. You can change the color of haze. You'll have to look it up. But there is a way to change this. It's not with the palette blends. It defaults to blue. You see this haze in series. But you can kind of see how the haze is affecting things in here. So with just the vanilla haze, it's a regular or a blue tint to things. There is one other effect with this, but when you defeat the main boss in a submap, the haze will change color. So let's put haze in these rooms. So now when we go in here, obviously we've got the haze, but really what I want to show off is the second property of haze is once the main boss is defeated, that actually no safe states were used in this. That was actually all pro right there. I am leaving that in. Okay, but now that the main boss for this area is dead, our haze changes color. It is now a red tint. Again, when Ceres is going through the explosion thing or whatever, it turns red. Rooms are shaking, you know, it's kind of panic alert, whatever. So now these two rooms both have red haze because the boss is dead. So if you ever have haze and you notice they change or something, it's because the boss is dead. So you can do some interesting things with that as well. We might as well cover this now, and then I'll cut around, make it sound intelligent later. You have rooms like this where you get this message where it says door select is not usual FX1 data. Don't panic. Probably don't really want to change anything in here, but don't panic, it's not all, just cancel it out. Basically for that, you want to change your pointers, and then this FX1 pointer, you'll want to point to a new location. Now if you want rooms to share FX and you don't mind them sharing, so this room, see the door select is all zeros, so it's safe to use. So if we can just grab the pointer from this room, which we have 82 or 83E2, we can give that to this room. Fire. That's not the right one. Pointer window. Then see, this is F2, slightly different. So if we add an E2, just use what's there. Now it's set to use the same FX as the FX1 as the other room. So what we change here will obviously affect the other room. But it is also now safe to use. So when I come across rooms like this, what I try and do is I try and group these rooms with rooms that I use similar FX. One, which is a lot because I use FX1 everywhere. But that's an idea of some way of getting around that easy. You just give it the same pointer as another room and share your FX. And that is, again, your basic overview of the FX1. A whole lot of really, really cool things. I really can't express that enough. There is a whole lot of things you can do with this. So please, play around with it. You will find a lot of different things. There's information on the forum or on the site about haze. You can probably find some for this other stuff as well. It's just a whole lot of really, really cool things. If you're making a hack, you will want to use FX1. There's a whole lot of really alien type stuff you can make with it. And it's really not that difficult. You just gotta play around with a few bits here and there. Trigger some of the glows. And you've got a completely different looking game.